go-to source for beauty, wellness, and women's health. From makeup tips and skincare secrets to fitness routines and overall well-being, we are here to help you look and feel your best. My name is Reagan, and I'm one of your co-hosts.
My name is Abby, and I'm your other co-host today.
And we are both so excited for our first episode of Underneath the Layers today. So for our first guest, Abby and I have someone that's very personal and means a lot to us. She has been made an impact on both of our lives in our fitness world, so we are so excited for her to be here. So welcome, Chloe.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Well, Chloe, we're both really excited about hearing about your journey as a yoga instructor and everything that you had to do to become that. So if you kind of just want to go walk me through the process of what kind of inspired you to be a yoga instructor.
Great question, Reagan. So I fell into yoga around the age of 14. I was experiencing some health difficulties, and yoga was just a way for me to de-stress and relax. No matter what health issues that I was facing, it was very inclusive. Like if I had hard times with I had hard times with fatigue and lightheadedness, but it was just an option for me no matter where I was at in my fitness journey that I could come to. And so when I came to High Point University, I was a freshman. I took lots of the Group X classes here, and I found out very quickly that you could be an instructor as a student without any prerequisites, and I immediately was like, I want to do that. And so I applied over the summer before my sophomore year, and I got hired as a yoga instructor. So I am now a senior at High Point, and so this is my third full year of being a yoga instructor, and I absolutely love it.
Oh my gosh, Chloe, that's awesome. I love that you were so I want to do this and you're so determined about that. I love that. So for yoga, how many would you say what was your I'm not very experienced in yoga, and I know I personally have a little bit of kind of fear with really getting into it as someone who isn't flexible. So what would you say your experience was when you started getting into it, and how did you become really comfortable with doing it all the time?
Yeah, I think this is what I tell each one of my students at the beginning of class: the best you can with what you have. So not everyone that practices yoga has to have balance or be super flexible. It's honestly an inclusive practice that anyone and everyone can do. So if you're feeling intimidated, I would just try it out. I think it has a lot of impact on your social, physical, and emotional well-being. That's why I really fell into it. And again, there's different levels. So you could go into an easier practice, or you could do a harder practice. So there's different ranges that you could go into.
I'm wondering because I'm not very flexible and I have a little bit hesitant about doing the yoga classes and everything. So how would you say your advice and how did you really get involved in it? Because it sounds like you started doing it when you were 14, but you kind of fell in love with it. So I guess you consistently did it for a while. How long did it really take you before you kind of were I feel comfortable doing this?
Yeah. So I definitely think it's a personal preference. I always think about my fiance, Will. He is not a yoga person. He just hates it. It's not his thing. But for me, I immediately picked up on it. I knew a majority of the poses after a few weeks. I am a kinesthetic learner, so I learn by doing. And so after doing it for a few weeks, a few months, I continued to get better at it. And I think for me, I know it's a passion from the Lord that he's given me. So I just absolutely love it. And by this time, it's a practice, so you continuously get better. That's what I love about it too. It's a continuous thing.
That's awesome. I love that. I love how you're inspired by that because I feel like people that are fitness instructors, especially at our age and in college, we all have such busy schedules. That's definitely a passion that you are, which I love that you're passionate about that. So what is one thing that when you're teaching that you really stress to your people that are in your class? Because I know that fitness, a lot of the times people preach the importance of do it for your mental well-being, not just your physical well-being. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Totally. That's one of my favorite parts about yoga is because it's not just about the physical practice. And initially, yoga was created around the whole meditative, mental part of it. It wasn't about the physical until it came into Western culture. That's when we really started prioritizing the physical postures of it. And so I hone into that mental aspect, especially as college students. I think that's why a lot of students come to class. They're not just seeing physical results, but once they leave class, they feel refreshed, they feel rejuvenated. We've got a lot of stuff going on. So I truly try to use it as an outlet for me and for students as a way to just like press pause on our busy lives. And so typically for my classes at the beginning, at the end, I do like a meditative or a relaxing um, session so that we're not just focusing on that physical portion. And I just try to guide them to relax and press pause, try to be fully present in the moment. Um, because again, like you said, having that balance between physical and emotional or like that mental well being is really important. So I think that's where that's why it's my favorite because it bridges the two together.
How have you noticed that it's impacted you mentally? Because I know that, as college students, we're all crazy busy and we're all running around all the time. So, how would you notice that's impacted you mentally?
Mentally, I think I deal personally with anxiety. I
Hmm.
mean, I feel like a lot of college students and girls can relate to that. I'm in like 5 classes, I'm in clubs and organizations, and there's just a lot of pressure on us as young people to be professional and to succeed at like almost everything we do. But when I step onto the mat, I feel like there's no pressure there. I can just do what I need to do and relax. And I find that when I move my body, I feel 10 times better when I take that moment for just myself. It's really personal for me. And I think that's why I try to elaborate to students as well. It's like you didn't come here because Sally told you to, and Sally next to you is going to do the workout for you. It's like you came here for you as a way to just to relax and put all of those pressures aside. And so for me, it just helps me to relax and take the pressure off of myself because I can get really overwhelmed with everything that I have going on. So that's what I find most useful.
I personally take Chloe's classes here at High Point, and I love them, especially the way you introduce them. It's calming, it takes me away from my day. And I use it as time to focus on myself and take away from my stress during my classes. And I appreciate how much you do it, and I love hearing that it does the same for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how I can tell that sometimes I feel like when people do work out, that sometimes you can't always see that it's like really impacting them. They're kind of just doing it to say that they're doing it. But I feel like with this and with yoga, I can tell that it's both impacting y'all and I can see the impacts of it. So, kind of like in addition to that, Abby, you were saying about Chloe's classes, how they're very calming and welcoming. Chloe, like, how do you really like focus on creating that welcoming, inclusive space in your classes?
Really great question. So I think the whole genesis for me, and I have to come back to my mission statement and my personal mission statement as to why I'm an instructor. I don't do it because like I want to work out and like this is like fun on the side. I do it because the community that it builds. I grew up playing soccer, and so I love working out and having that like inclusive and inspiring environment with working out with other like-minded individuals. So group exercise is that same thing. Um, it's exciting to do it with others, and so I try to create that inclusive environment by creating like a more welcoming space. So each time a student comes in, we share something probably from like our day or our week, something that we're grateful for, and I think that's a great opportunity for me to get to know the student, but also other students to meet people and realize that we're all in the same boat. It's an opportunity for people to be a little bit more vulnerable. I typically ask like, what's one success from today or this week? What's something you're looking forward to? What's one thing you're grateful for? And it just really reminds us of that why. And so we don't just come into the workout class and leave. I think people try to get to know each other and we try to move as one. That's what I constantly say too is let's move as one, let's encourage each other. And so I think that's one of my favorite parts as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love the whole because I know that when I've gone to group workout classes in the past, sometimes I feel very intimidated by it
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like especially those really advanced workout classes, I don't know if either one of y'all feel the same way that you go and everyone's like taking things like way too seriously and everyone's like it's almost like you feel intimidated and you're like scared to like mess up or scared to
Yeah.
like ask
Yeah,
any
exactly.
questions.
One thing I love about your classes is that you do just take it at your own pace.
Mm-hmm.
Each class is like you work on what you want to work on and you take out what you want from each class.
Totally.
I love that. What is one thing now that I'm thinking about just like beyond like the mat and like outside yoga, like what's one thing that yoga has taught you to like bring into your everyday life?
Breath work
Okay.
for sure.
Maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I learned about this more recently, and I don't know everything about it, but the way I would say it is like we have our nervous system, and yoga is really important for our nervous system. And we have two parts. We have that peripheral nervous system and our central nervous system. And we have another part, which is our parasympathetic, and that allows our body to like rest and digest. And so our nervous system is really imperative for like our function and how it impacts our lives. So in yoga, we prioritize breath work, the inhales and the exhales, and that controls like our heart rate, blood pressure. It really just kind of has that cascade effect on like our internal environment. And so when we're practicing breath work in class, that's going to cascade into and snowball into like our daily lives. And I remind students like it's simple, like just take a deep breath. And that's what I try to remind myself in stressful moments, because when I can feel my heart rate rising or I'm in a stressful situation, I just have to like take a step back, maybe close my eyes and just breathe, because it sounds so simple. And it's like, but it's harder than it sounds. And so that's the most impactful thing for me. It's so powerful, not only like outside, but also inside the work. Like Abby, I'm sure you've heard me say like 1,000 times, like let your breath take you through it. So like in the hardest part of the move, you want to exhale. That's going to slow your heart rate down, provide more oxygen to the body, and get you through that move. And so if we can like do that in our daily lives, not in physical movement, like if you're going for a presentation or you have like an exam or something, just take a few moments to like inhale for 5 seconds and exhale for 5 seconds. Your heart rate's gonna like kind of balance out. And that really helps with my mental well being.
I love that because as someone who struggles with chronic anxiety, I've like heard, for years, with going to therapy, and doing different anxiety things, I always, which this is something that I'm not great with, is like the
Mm-hmm.
breathing, but I do and love like that you put a really high importance on the breath work and everything, because I feel like that can be used in like day-to-day lives too
Yeah.
as well.
It's hard. Like it sounds so simple, and like in therapy, I didn't understand it for
Me
the
either. I
longest
still
time.
don't.
I'm like, wait, how does that work? But it takes practice, because
Mhm.
it's like it takes mental, physical, and like, but I promise you it makes a huge impact.
And I also think that when you're hearing that, like I think you're like, this isn't gonna work, this isn't gonna
Mhm.
work. But it does. It takes a lot of practice and
Yeah.
like consistency with you doing it. And sometimes you have to force yourself to do
Yeah.
it too.
For sure.
All right, so can yoga help with sleep? Because I've heard lots of different rumors on this.
Yeah, totally. So it's human physiology that like physical activity helps with your sleep, helps with stress. Those two things are linked together. And so when you move your body, it releases like endorphins and things like that. But for me, I think it helps just like calm my mind. So if you're having like a really stressful day and you just need to like wind down for the night as like your nightly routine, you can just take like a 15-minute slow flow before you go to bed. And that will just cue your body into that parasympathetic nervous system and allow your body and your mind to just like settle down and relax. Some
What-
really
Sorry,
pose-
Chloe, to cut you off. What does slow flow mean?
So
For like the poses, I'm just thinking for
Mhm.
non-yoga people.
that's perfect. So like I teach yoga flow, and that is like matching your breath with movement is the best way to put it. And so slow flow is just taking things a little bit slower, being in the poses for a little bit longer. Whereas like when you're in a more high or a faster yoga flow class, you're just probably going to break a little bit more sweat. And they hold different purposes. So that slow flow is just going to allow your body to release any tension and stress, and just relax more.
Mhm.
But like if you compare it to like a high intensity workout, that's going to get you amped up and really like energetic and energized for the day.
Mhm.
But that slow flow is kind of the opposite. It's going to slow things down a little bit more for you. Digestion, your mental well-being, all of that.
Yeah. So are there any specific poses that you would recommend, like for winding down and for sleep, that would help that?
I always recommend child's pose and happy baby, anything that's surrounded with your hips, because we actually hold like 80% of tension just within our hips throughout the day,
That's
as well as like
crazy.
our shoulders and stuff. So if you just like take 5 minutes to roll your head, neck, and shoulders and then stretch out your hip, physically feel less tight. So those are the main things that I recommend.
College students and everyone being so busy, is this something that you like encourage in your classes to do before they go to bed, or like meditation? I know a big part of yoga is meditation. So maybe if you want to talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah, I definitely encourage it. I think for me, the biggest thing is enlighten, educate, and empower students. Those are the three things that I try to focus around. And so when they come into class, I don't want it to just be they come in and they leave. I want it to be a holistic experience so that they can take what we do in class and use it when they're at home in their own space. And so I try to let them know, try to do this right before bed. We hold stress in the hips. Have you heard me say that before, Abby?
Yes, I've heard you say that, and it's saved me so many times in class.
Yeah, totally. So, and then at the end, like during Shavasana, I just try to encompass like when you do this here, you can add it to other parts of your life, like the breath work and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I might have to try that and let you know how it goes.
I do it, and it's saved me.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, then I definitely am gonna have to try that. I might force all my roommates to do that
Yeah.
with me.
Highly recommend.
So what, like for meditation, like do you encourage meditating outside of yoga? Do you meditate outside of yoga? I'm kind of just curious on that.
Yeah, I think that's a cool question. So for me, that looks a little different. I'm a Christian, and so like the whole meditative thing is not. I take it and kind of formulate it into how I would do it.
Yeah.
I'm not like the whole Zen Buddha type thing, but
Yeah. But like the
I
relaxing component
yes,
behind it.
totally. So I'd put on like spa music, got my diffuser, and sometimes like I don't love sitting in silence. Like that's not my favorite way to do it because my brain just works really fast. Like I'm always thinking about stuff. And so I love to do gratitude practice. That's kind of like quote unquote meditation for me. That sets my brain up for the day and at the end of each night. I have like the 5 minute gratitude journal. And I like to center my heart around gratitude. And I say in my classes, a happy heart is a grateful heart. So if you can focus on three things that you're grateful for, like being able bodied or just being able, like if you shift that mindset from like, I've got to do something to I get to do something, instead of saying I've got to go work out or I've got to go to class, making that simple switch of like, I get to go to class and I get to go work out can really impact the way you think about things and your perspective. So gratitude and just setting up a peaceful space for me has been really important. And that can overlap with like doing homework. I like to put on really peaceful music and diffuser.
I love that. I love how you're so like that's like you put the emphasis on like trying to get your body to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that that's very important, you know, like as college students, and especially, you know, with midterms being so soon.
Yeah.
I feel like we're all kind of running around crazy. So I think the importance of like calming your mind down and everything like that. So just, you know, overall, like you said that, you know, you did soccer growing up. I know I'm backtracking a little bit. What would you say, because I know soccer is a different kind of workout than what yoga is. How would you kind of compare the two? Because I know a lot of people, you know, are used to those like Orange Theory kind of style workouts. So how would you kind of compare the two and like the benefits that they both have, but especially like yoga?
I think they each serve their own purpose. And I would say yoga can be a supplemental to anything. So, like, I'll always go back to Will, my fiance. Like, they do yoga. He played football for the Citadel. And so he was doing like high intensity lifting workouts, but he also had to take that time to like stretch and relax those muscles. So, yoga can play a big role in other sports like football and soccer. And soccer for me is just like that fun thing to do. Like, you get to yell and you get to scream and laugh and run. So I'm big into like cross training and doing other things other than yoga. I always come back to yoga, but I think it's one of those supplemental things that you can incorporate into any part of your life. So like girls that are really big into spin, like I think yoga still is really impactful and that should be practiced by everyone.
Yeah, and I also feel like on top of that, I feel like it's an importance to do, you know, like Abby mentioned earlier, like the low hit impact workouts and like maybe a combination of the high impact workouts too.
Totally.
I feel like both of those they both serve different purposes, but they
Mhm.
both are very important, like to your overall well-being.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's for me the holistic approach. Like I cannot just stick with one thing. I've got to be doing several different things to keep myself busy. And so I love doing cycle and swim and running. Um, and so yeah, it's a little bit of everything to like balance out that nervous system. Like you need that high intensity workout sometimes, but that low impact is going to be beneficial all the time.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. So, Chloe, what is one thing overall that you want our listeners to take away from this podcast, from listening to this?
Yes, I think if you're intimidated by yoga, if it scares you, or if you think you're not balanced or flexible, I would just try it. I think the hardest part is starting, and you never know what it's like until you try it. So, highly recommend it. I think it can lead to great results. It has truly impacted my life and the way I see my life. And I don't know who I would be without yoga. I mean, we've talked about Reagan's in my classes and Abby's taken mine, and I want to take yoga and I want to turn it into a business and I want to open my own yoga studio. So it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I think everyone should at least try. And it's really that the only workout for me that I've found is holistic. It's mental, physical, and that spiritual well being formed into one thing. So, yeah, give it a try.
Well, thank you, Chloe.
Thank you for joining us on our first episode. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks, y'all. You did so good, and I was honored to be here.
Thank you so much, Chloe. Well, thank y'all so much for listening to our first episode of Underneath the Layers. We really appreciate it. Chloe. If y'all just want to make sure y'all are following us on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok at Underneath the Layers for any updates on more episodes. Thank y'all.